Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unraveling the completely fictional but absolutely mind-bending mystery of Arthur Blackwood's murder. We're going to deconstruct exactly how a classic locked room illusion is built. If you've ever wondered how these seemingly impossible crimes are pulled off and then systematically dismantled by sharp detective work, well, you're in exactly the right place. We are going to walk step by step through this masterfully crafted deception to see how the impossible becomes, honestly, perfectly ordinary.
So, picture this. You arrive at a foggy, dead, silent mansion in the middle of the night. You find a millionaire dead in his private study, and the circumstances completely impossible. The servants are standing around frozen in fear. The grandfather clock is echoing through the empty halls. It is the ultimate classic mystery setup. But the real puzzle we need to solve is simple. How on earth does a killer pull this off and just vanish into thin air?
Okay, let's dive into the actual scene. Detective Emma Carter steps into a room that literally defies logic. There is zero sign of anyone entering or escaping. The door, locked securely from the inside. Every single window is permanently sealed, covered in thick dust, untouched for weeks. There are no visible hidden passages, the fireplace is cold, nothing was stolen, no fingerprints left behind, and absolutely no murder weapon. Just an impenetrable room and a victim.
But right smack in the middle of this totally sealed room, there was one glaring anomaly. Resting on the desk was a solitary black chess king. Now here's the kicker. Arthur never played chess. When you're looking at a crime scene that's completely devoid of fingerprints or signs of forced entry, an item that out of place absolutely demands your attention. Was it some bizarre calling card, or was it a carefully planted piece of a much larger puzzle?
Let's look at the suspects. Since the room was locked from the inside and the house was totally isolated, basic logic tells us whoever orchestrated this whole grand illusion was already trapped inside the walls of Blackwood Manor.
Detective Carter questioned everyone, and honestly, each story sounded believable on the surface, but it was obvious someone was lying. The butler insisted he was just preparing tea, the nephew claimed he was quietly reading in the library, and the housekeeper swore up and down she never left the kitchen. On paper, these are perfectly standard alibis. But, as we know with locked room mysteries, ordinary statements are usually just a cover for some extraordinary deception.
As Detective Carter scoured the study for anything she might have missed, she uncovered a really weird pattern regarding the time of death. Both Arthur's expensive pocket watch and the stopped clock on the wall displayed exactly 11:17 p.m. Now think about how deliberate that is. Having one clock stop during a struggle, sure, that's a coincidence. But having both the wall clock and the victim's personal pocket watch stopped at the exact same minute, oh, that's a performance. Someone desperately wanted investigators to anchor their entire timeline to this specific minute.
But Emma Carter wasn't buying it. When a scene looks a little too perfect, it usually means it was staged. So she trusted her gut, looked beyond the room itself, and pulled the mansion's electrical records. And boom! That revealed the first major crack in the killer's illusion.
Just look at this timeline. It exposes the whole trick. At 10:52 p.m., the estate lost power for a mere 30 seconds. So if the clocks were tied to the electrical grid and stopped during that brief outage, a time of death recorded at 11:17 p.m. is completely meaningless. The killer literally went out of their way to manually adjust the timepieces. They staged a fake timeline just to make sure their own alibi remained rock solid.
So, with the false timeline completely exposed, the detective went right back to that strange black chess king resting on the desk. The illusion was fraying at the edges now, and Emma knew this out-of-place game piece wasn't random at all. It was a breadcrumb.
You see, Arthur owned these rare antique puzzles, and one of them contained this exact phrase, "The Black King marks the final move." This led Emma straight to a decorative chessboard in the study. That phrase wasn't just some poetic metaphor, it was literally a set of physical instructions. It directly linked the bizarre clue on the desk to the very room they were standing in. Pressing a slightly suspicious square on that board popped open a hidden compartment. Inside, explosive financial documents. These papers proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that millions of dollars were being siphoned away from Arthur's company. And the way they were perfectly arranged, it laid the blame directly at the feet of Arthur's nephew. You know, the guy who claimed he was just reading in the library?
But hold on. The evidence against the nephew was almost too obvious. Emma realized this didn't add up. Why would a criminal mastermind create this completely impossible locked room mystery only to leave a glowing treasure map pointing directly to themselves? Someone obviously wanted investigators to find that compartment. Someone wanted the nephew to take the fall.
So she searched those impenetrable walls one more time, and behind a recently moved, heavy, solid bookshelf, she found it: fresh paint. That paint was masking a narrow maintenance tunnel built decades earlier. This is the moment the whole impossible facade completely crumbles. The tunnel connected directly to the study, but had been covered up and hidden for years.
The room was never actually impossible to enter. The real culprit was the mansion's longtime accountant. He was the one who had been siphoning funds into fake accounts for years, and the nephew was nothing but a convenient scapegoat. The accountant knew about the old architecture of the mansion, and he used it to orchestrate a crime designed to look exactly like a magic trick.
Let's break down this absolute masterclass in misdirection. Step 1. Years of embezzlement. Step 2. Arthur discovers the fraud that evening, so the accountant uses the forgotten tunnel to sneak in. Step 3. He commits the murder. And then, Step 4 is where the real performance begins. He locks the door from the inside, escapes back through the tunnel, leaves the chess king to frame the nephew via the puzzle box, and finally manually adjusts the clocks to 11:17 p.m. to secure his alibi. Just brilliant misdirection.
As we wrap up this explainer, we're reminded that every impossible crime really does have an ordinary explanation just waiting to be found. The Blackwood Manor case wasn't magic. It was simply exploiting human assumptions. We see a locked door and we immediately assume no one got in, rather than asking if there's a door we simply haven't seen yet. So it leaves us with this final fascinating thought for you today. In life, when we're faced with an impossible situation, are we actually looking at the facts, or are we just staring at the chess piece someone deliberately left on the desk to distract us?